Hi, welcome back to another episode of Reviews with Bro. Today's album I will be reviewing is going to be Jeris Johnson's Dragonborn. Now, just to give a little bit of background on the album, Jeris Johnson was once in Audiophobia, a band from Oregon here in the USA, which I found kind of surprising that it was a USA based band because the album itself, kind of made me think they could have possibly been from Norway and Sweden, especially with a lot of the Viking imagery and a lot of like the kind of European metal uh, influences I could hear throughout. Now he got his start with TikTok and YouTube for some of his solo stuff. I've heard before that he's just an influencer, but I'm not too sure on that because he does have his previous album or band Audiophobia. The album itself has lots of influences and he mixes them into, let's just say, a unique combination. Now, I'm not really sure if I love or hate this album at all. Like, I don't know if I love it because I hate it. I hate it because I love it. But each song has something I enjoy about it. And within that same song, there's parts I really don't enjoy. There's power metal, metalcore, hip hop, electronic, new metal, folk, lots of, like I said earlier, lots of Viking Nordic imagery. It's what I imagine that the Ren Fair will play to make people start leaving. And it sounds like, all these elements kind of like this are wrapped in this underlying like cheesy power metal blanket. No, I'm not the biggest fan of a singing voice. It's not the most flattering. It reminds me of an era of the late 2000s, like bro metal, like kind of hinderish, post rock, like Puddle of Mud mixed together, and I don't really care for it. But there's some solid riffs throughout, some interesting twists, and into other genres that overall, credit where credit's due, makes for a fun, unique journey and experience. Destined he would be chosen for which he did not know. Now, the first song on the album, Dragonborn, I really loved how this song started out. It reminds me of some of the power metal I've fallen in love with. You can hear some of the 2000s rock really bleed through as not as well as like some sound bites and stuff I've heard from TikTok. It's not the only song I've gone between liking and disliking within the same listen, but it's still interesting and fun nonetheless. I also really enjoy the kind of the folkish outro. The second song, Story of Our Lives, one of the more unique blends of hip hop and power metal on this album. Really great breakdowns, and a pretty decent guitar solo right after it. When the Darkness Comes, I generally enjoy on this song in particular the switching between like bard music, hip hop, glam metalcore, and I think the underlying melody, kind of the main melody I should say, I believe it's from a Kesha song, and you know what? How can you hate that? Kesha is one of the goats, at least for me. And looking back on my middle school, high school days and how popular she was around that time, it's definitely cheesy, but still enjoyable nonetheless. And like I said in my last review, I like cheese. Sometimes you just need a big fat bowl of queso to dip your chips in. And welcome to Valhalla. Really fun song. Love the use of that melody from the 1800s sea shanty that's been popular on TikTok and Instagram. And he mixes it with some rap, some metalcore, and it makes a really fun experience. I don't have too many negative things about it. Perhaps if you're not a fan of metalcore or you're not a fan of mixing it with rap, you may not enjoy it. But then again, if you don't enjoy those elements, you're probably not going to find much throughout the album because roughly every song kind of makes use of this interesting combination. Now, Here's to the Years, probably my favorite track on the album. It's a little bit more straightforward, doesn't really dip into the other like hip hop or electronic influences, and it's like a kind of like a mix of Ailstorm, a really fun pirate metal band, and mixes it with some Fog and Molly, and it has like this cool like punk meets power metal twist that it's really just a great fun track. Siren song, while being far from my favorite song on the album, not saying I extremely dislike it, but I enjoy the journey it takes me on, and it kind of has this like melodramatic opening, and then goes into like these really speedy runs to this folk metal inspired passage to the, and then goes into like this bardic hip hop beat track. And overall, the journey's fun. You may not really appreciate the lyrics. Like I said before, I don't really listen to lyrics regardless. And I'm not the biggest fan of his voice, but I do like his experimentation and wanting to mix things. And it's overall a fun track. Down with the Dynasty. Really enjoyed this beginning riff, but then quickly after that it goes into this kind of territory of like this really bass heavy hip hop that doesn't quite work with me. And I think what he did on this song, he ends up doing a lot better on other parts of the album. The next song, John, is a really kind of is more straight, one of the most straightforward songs on the album. Has this very like dad rock kind of ballad, you know, like late 90s, early 2000s grunge and post grunge. It really doesn't say much to say about it. It's just a solid, good song and ballad. And I think it's probably the one of the few songs where I think his voice actually kind of matches what's going on behind, and it fits in well with it. Not a Person, Freak. Now, lyrically, this song kind of made me cringe. It's one of the few songs where it kind of stuck out to me. The lyrics, I could actually pay attention to them. You know, I really do not care for this, you know, oh, we're listening to metal, I'm a freak, I'm just an outsider, even though I'm in a group of outsiders, not making me an outsider, but I'm a freak. I just think it's played out, and whenever people kind of dip and rely on it, it's just not enjoyable. You know, musically, it's okay, has a cool deathcore type breakdown that I wish he kind of made more use of to make the song a little bit more enjoyable. But that's all I can really say about it. Eat, Drink, War, Repeat. Least favorite track on the album. Hate the lyrics. It gets repeated all the way through, and it's pretty irritating. And so next, Ode to Metal. I'm not sure why it's called Ode to Metal when it has so many influences from punk and rap, but nonetheless, it's a fun tune. It's another song where you're kind of taking on a musical journey, going through all these different genres and coming out at the end, and having enjoyed it. And it's another song that I enjoy listening to as it evolves and opens up to itself. Kiss from a Rose, a cover of the great Seal classic. I've heard some people say that they didn't enjoy it, but I did. I thought it was an interesting take, and I enjoyed the heavier elements being added to the song, and it still keeps the same level of emotion while adding just a tinge of a different kind of emotion. Is that the right way to put it? I'm not really sure, but his voice, he does all right on, you know, singing the song. I do wish he had kind of a better one, because, you know, Seal is a phenomenal singer and artist. But altogether, it's a fun tune. It's one of my top favorites, and I actually go back to listen to just this song sometimes. Now we have the end of the album, the finish line, aptly named, you know, perfect title to a song, to an album. It's another rather straightforward attempt and doesn't try to do too much with experimentation. I love all the sounds it kind of uses throughout, and it was a rather emotional song that just kind of left me in this somber state when it ended. Like it was like a definitive emotional end to an otherwise pretty fun album. And so that's it. That's kind of, my overall take, and that's it for the track by track. My top 3 tracks were Here's to the Years, Kiss from a Rose, and the title track Dragonborn. Overall, I got to give this album, a 5.5 out of 10. I don't think I could give it any more of a six considering how much, I didn't enjoy. But at the same time, I can't give it below a 5.0 because I think it would be kind of a disservice. It's a fun experience. He experiments a lot of different things, makes something kind of unique that I gotta admit I haven't quite heard before. And those are always just, for me, fun to listen to and experience. And it would kind of, yeah, like I said, it would just kind of be a disservice to the album, to the artist, for what they were trying to do if I give it less than that. What I'd love to know what were some of your favorites? What were some of your least favorites? And before you do that, like and subscribe.